are you indicating that's my responsibility? I would accept no responsibility whatsoever.
Then, now, forever, together.
I don't think we could talk about episode 3 of the Netflix docuseries Mr. McMahon without the OG3. It feels like it this low key feel this episode entitled Screwjob. I don't know how other people. I mean, well, I think the thing about this episode, which kind of looks at the I guess the pre-Attitude Era. This is like the beginnings of, this is the Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. This is the post-steroid trial, new generation WWE trying to figure out what the situation is going to look like without your Hogans and your big steroid freaks. Actually, we were talking episode 2. I'm sorry, brother Math. Episode 2 ended with Hogan saying, I knew what I was going to say when they told me I had to go against Vince. And Brother Fam said, hey, trust, when at the beginning of the episode, they're going to let you know. And Hogan let you know. He said, look, but it's because the prosecution fucked up. Their MO was, hey, did Vince McMahon sell you steroids? And all Hogan had to say, no. He ain't do nothing to me. He ain't trying to get me on drugs.
Right.
He don't have to say his mans did. The doctor over there, he with the scripts, he could, but it was a really bad. I mean, that's why Vince was. I believe he was not guilty. Like at the end of the verdict or whatever.
That nigga was slapping fives. Like, goddamn, Jigga Kelly, not guilty.
He was shook.
Yeah, he was shook.
He was shook.
Yeah, he was shook.
He was shook. It was going to be bad. Because you figure the one thing with Vince, he always talk about when he talks about like Ted Turner and them talking shit about him. He was like, this family owned business, you know, blah blah blah. Like, it's at the end of the day, he got a lot of money, but it's really his money. Like, if you're going against WWE, you go into his bank account, you in his wallet or whatever. So I understand it, but no, he got off. He said, boom, we're Bret Hart, come over here, be our world champion. Shawn Michaels, come over here, be his threat. And they mentioned a little bit of Nitro, like this is kind of the beginning of Bischoff and Ted Turner really trying to go into WWE. But the one fascinating part that I thought, they talked about the curtain call, like this episode 3 of Mr. McMahon was really about bringing Paul Levesque and Shawn Michaels and everybody into the fold. I guess we'll start off at this point. Before the curtain call, had either of y'all known about like the dirt sheets or like anything in regards to like the inner workings of pro wrestling outside of what was on TV? Were y'all were already in tune to that?
There was this old lady that worked at Sloman Shield. I cannot remember her name.
Judy.
That was the homeless looking lady with the wig.
Glass.
And she would like, we would talk about wrestling, but then she would call niggas by their first names. And specifically, I remember her talking about Sting. And I don't know what it was, yo. This lady knew. This little lady, she had the same little blue vest on every day and this crazy looking wig, but she knew. And that was like around the first time I started hearing about like backstage stuff and people knowing things that they ain't supposed to know. And,
right.
And anything past, it was 2 Ultimate Warriors, right? Like, anything past that.
Right.
Is that's one of the first things that, and I'll let Cuz tell this, but Cuz and his mans is really the first, like,
but
heard about the
computers putin,
Yeah, we would go online. This was when they first got computers in school, and the only time you could get online, nigga, we ain't had an internet. No,
right.
That was the only place. You know what I'm saying? So we would go outside of the library, and go on these different sites, and they would have all these spoilers and backstage. This is what happened. This is what happened at this show. But I rarely paid attention to that. My main focus was seeing what the results were for either pay-per-views or the Raw taping or some shit like that. So I rarely paid attention to the dirty, I guess, the dirty side of
right.
I was definitely on the dirty side.
Yeah, I
school.
think
You get suspended for that shit.
I feel like I read something about the curtain. Well, all right, let me back up. The Trentonian, which was like the smaller local paper in Trenton at that time, it was Sundays. They had the Trenton Strangler or the Trenton Red Mask. It was one of the two names at a certain point, but they would run like a little pro wrestling column that expanded into a bigger one. But that was a place where I first heard about like WCW's got this guy Goldberg, and they really piping in the fake Goldberg chants. But I remember them talking about a curtain call. Like it was the next level of looking at like After Mags and being like, yo, it's not just these two federations or whatever. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it was very much more about, I remember hearing about ratings and pay-per-view buy rates and stuff. And I'm assuming, like me being a man now, it's like, oh, he's probably just reading Meltzer shit and then reporting it in the paper a couple of days later because Meltzer shit is out on Thursdays. But I remember the conversation about Diesel and Razor Ramon were going to be going to WCW, and they did this. They had this moment at the end of their last house show or whatever. But it was, I was waiting for them to mention like the person who brought the video camera into the venue that night, because they had the footage. And if they didn't have if that footage never came out, I'm going to assume that Triple H would have been the king of the ring that year. You feel me? Like nobody would have. It's one thing to say, "Hey, this shit happened." It's another thing to be like, "Oh, look, these four guys are hugging in the middle of the ring and acknowledging the lines being blurred or whatever because they're cool."
So one thing I was a bit confused about with the storytelling, because most of it was pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounded like niggas said this wasn't planned. Niggas was just in the ring together, and they knew they was on the way out, and people started cheering, and then they hugged, which is what I saw. But then was niggas saying that Vince okayed it beforehand?
Yeah,
that's what they're saying. And
he said he went to ask him. Shawn Michaels said
Shawn did, yeah,
if they could do something for those two because they were leaving.
Okay.
And he okayed it because it was Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, he went, and they went through a couple of people like, yo, yeah, I heard Vince okayed it, whatever. And then Vince ended up being on the document like, yeah, it was this thing, you know, because it was a house show. It wasn't something that was going to be on TV. Was it ever found whoever the white person was in the mid 90s who had that video? Because that was not a nigga.
Got think fan cams
for real.
Oh, these niggas. Hearing about fan cams was from these niggas.
Yeah. On those video sites,
that was a big thing on ECW. ECW TV would have fan cam on it. Yeah,
that's like the only time. And I stumbled on fan cam on accident, not knowing what fan cam was, but looking for the hottest whatever. And then I'm like, yo, this is from somebody camcorder.
Matter of fact. No, because you know what's crazy?
Dehydration.
We love wrestling. Peace of brother Terry. Terry was like that was modern fan cams. That I know that if you look at that nigga was right here.
Yeah.
At ringside, that was fan cam. That was modern fan cam. Now it was ill to see for me. It was ill to see Triple H, because again, a lot I've always heard, hey, Triple H he had to eat shit because Shawn was a champion and he couldn't lose any ground. Nash and Hall were already on their way to WCW, so Triple H had to basically lose the opportunity to be the king of the ring. So Stone Cold Steve Austin could end up, like that's what happened. Triple H stood aside and Stone Cold took the baton and went hammer with it.
So this is, and to me, these are the stories that I think make this dope because yes, we've heard this story a million times, right? But we've heard it from this guy, and we've heard it from that guy, and then everybody tells Vince's part. Now we get that story with the stuff left in.
He's confirming stuff,
You know how like they have the show where like they show you the beginning of the crime and then the aftermath of the crime.
Yes.
Now we see the goddamn nigga really going in there and shooting up the goddamn bank and taking the and we know for real what happened. So this is really my favorite thing that this documentary has done so far. I mean, throughout is it's filled in all the goddamn blank spots.
Piece that bitch together.
Vince, I had to write a quote out. I be taking notes on this shit. Vince told Triple H, "Hey, I know it kind of sucks. You ain't got to be king of the ring, but guess what? You're gonna have to learn to eat shit and like it. But I mean, when you think about it, like hearing stuff like that confirmed reminds me of the adage of, WWE, you win by losing. The idea of you end up losing a match, but you're gonna look better outside of that because of your effort or whatever. That's really condensed because that's a short amount of time. When you think about Triple H going from 96 not being able to be that guy to now 2024, he is WWE. Like everything is literally him at this point.
He is now telling him you're gonna have to learn to eat.
Yeah.
Who did y'all say? Now let me ask y'all a question.
That's funny,
right? Because and I think this is actually a very important thing that I don't think anyone's talked about. Who would Triple H be saying that to?
That you got to eat shit and like, in terms of like who may have been, who would be the Triple H to him being Vince in this point? Damn, that's a good question.
I mean, I think what we're gonna see is Cena is going to be backstage learning, putting the show together and that sort of thing, because I think Cena is the next guy who loves it like Triple H loves WWE specifically.
And could be you think Cena, well, because I guess Cena's doing his last year in 2025. He's been making movies, but he's also of a certain age. Like I imagine he's
not 50. Is he?
I'm pulling up both their ages right now.
He's probably like 46.
Paul Levesque is 55 currently. John Cena is 47. So yeah, there's almost a 10-year difference between the two of them. Maybe. I mean, my main question would be, is John Cena ready to not be going to Singapore or China or wherever he's going half the year and making movies and being outside? Like he would really need to be in Stanford, living that Triple H learning the ropes type life, because that's it's different.
But realistically, what's John Cena's career outside of being like John Cena? What else can he do? Because he's like you said, he's 47. And when I see him, I'm looking at the roles that he's getting is based off of him being John Cena, if that makes sense.
No, right. At a certain point, he's not going to be John Cena, especially not for that stuff.
The one thing that I will say with Cena, though, is that he's good at, like, when they have him in a lot of these movies, he's funny. He's good. And low-key, y'all listen to them commercials, a lot of times that voice you hear during that voiceover is John Cena.
Yeah. I think I want, is it Meta? One of them companies supposed to be doing it may be his voice, they're incorporating some AI. And yeah, I think my thing would be if John Cena is trying to dedicate the rest of his life to being, wearing that suit and being it may like it's going to be interesting to be in a world where, because what if Triple H would be the Vince McMahon, is John Cena going to be like his Sergeant Slaughter or like Gorilla Monsoon? Like, where would John Cena fit?
Cena, no, don't do that. Main man. Who was the nigga that was mad at people? Pritchard.
Oh, you think he'd be the right hand man? Maybe
He could be Pritchard. Imagine John Cena's brother Love.
He could probably get some of these wrestlers to do more than Pritchard could. Like they love that guy.
Yeah.
They love that man. They ain't get to him yet though. We're still in episode 3. We got some time to get to Cena. They did start talking about, and this is where I'm not that I'm like I don't want to watch a show, but it's like I see so much WCW stuff. Like once Eric Bischoff hits the scene, I'm like, all right, here we go. Here's 83 weeks. Here's outs. But they went through, and I wasn't mad at the way that they developed the Bash at the Beach with Hogan coming out and being the third man. I thought they built the suspense well. I also thought the hypocrisy of Vince being upset at Ted Turner signing his talent, the Randy Savages and the Hulk Hogans and everybody, when 2 episodes before this they got to show the flip of the Bret Harts and the Ricky Dragon Steamboats, all that talent that basically, and he admitted it. He said, hey, look, you can't compete with me.
You can't compete.
What
Tough.
we gonna do? What am I supposed to do?
It's not my fault that these people want to roll with me.
And was pissed. He was pissed though.
He was upset. I mean, part of it. And again, reading those Sunday newspapers and looking a little bit into the dirt sheets, I remember specifically this conversation about WWE saying they're infringing on our copyright. Like, it's not that, even if you take a couple of guys from up north situation, like, their thing was, this guy is supposed to be Razor Ramon. Right. This guy looks like Diesel, and I don't think I forget how blatant some of that shit was when I see that content back now. I'm like, oh wait, nah, he really was just like, yeah, we're all from up north, and we gonna beat the machismo out you, whatever they say. Like, it feels like they were really leaning into that more than I remember watching it when I was a teen. That's what it was, though. That's what it was. Yep. I don't know.
You know what really struck, and I think I'm in the right episode. Stop me if I'm not.
Okay.
Is Bischoff brought up a very, very good point. I mean, still salty, right? But he said, Vince always, the nigga Vince kept talking about Ted Turner.
Yes.
Ted Turner wasn't the nigga directly beating you, buddy.
Right.
It was me, the nigga that you bought in for that audition that I did not get. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You bought me in.
Right.
And I've been dusting you off for 83 weeks.
It's on me.
Podcast,
yeah.
83 weeks, the name of my podcast that I do with Conrad Thompson. 83 weeks that I have a podcast name.
Google it. Nah, it's facts.
It's Big Soul.
But he, I mean, in the world of pro wrestling, sports entertainment, there's only so many people who got that one up on Vince, and to the day he died, he may put 83 weeks I beat WWE back in the day on his tombstone, because I mean that's a feat.
It's tatted somewhere on him. I promise.
Somewhere he got an 8 and a 3 somewhere.
I mean, shit, you had that puncher's chance. You punched into the 9th round, and then you got knocked out. That's just...
Hey, he became a rich man. Again, this was the episode where they talked about the 83 weeks. And all this kind of led into the, again, the episode's called Screwjob. This all led into the Montreal Screwjob. I mentioned at the top of this is probably one of my favorite constructed episodes. I liked the way, because when they started talking about Wendy Richter, and the situation where she didn't want to drop the title to Moolah, and the way that they laid it out, I'm like, yo, I knew that this happened, but I didn't realize that. Like, this was the Wendy Richter Screwjob, wherever MSG Screwjob. Like, there is a pattern for, and Vince laid it out clearly, and he said it multiple times. You didn't win this title. This title was granted to you. It's my property, and if you're leaving,
I gave it to you.
You're going to return it. That was his thing. And mind you, again, this was 97, 5 years after Ric Flair left WCW and went to that whole situation where he brought their title on his show. Vince knew he didn't want that shit happening, and just like, because if he could have done it, he would have got Medusa to not drop that damn title in the trash bin. Like, that's the type of shit he was trying to avoid.
And Lex showing up.
And Lex showing, because Lex was supposed to be his guy, and literally
after a house show,
the next day he was on the first episode of Nitro in the Mall of America, and they were trying to he was challenging Hogan. His whole thing was cutting a promo on Hogan. So the story cracks me up. Vince is like, hey, there's too many people doing steroids, so we got to have some new blood. Bret Hart, you're great. You're the excellent execution. Let's sign you up for 10 years. Someone said, hey Vince, just so we're clear, these audiences ain't packed in these houses no more. This shit is trash. This ain't making no money. So Vince said, hey, Bret, come here real quick. We can't do this shit no more. But do me a favor. Here's your contract. Right here, right here, right here. Go to Eric Bischoff and tell him about this shit. He gonna give you $100 million. I promise you. He went down the road, got $100 million. That
may or may not have been Cal's real BRP contract right there.
Like, big facts. This is what everybody gets standard. Right. DDM still reading over right now. Nah, but
mine's on here.
Whatever works. Napkins, paper towel, whatever's handy. So now he go down the road, get the money, and then Vince is like, so my brother, just so we're clear, our guy is Shawn Michaels. I know you don't fuck with him. I know he tried to call you a whole cheating dirty dog on TV. I know y'all got beef, but do me a solid. I helped you get your money. You just got to lose to him. Now, being a Wrestling with Shadows kid, I know Brett for years, Brett said, hey, I will lose to Shawn. I don't want to do it in Montreal. If you want, we'll do a schmaz in Montreal, and the next night on Raw, I'll drop the title, whatever the case may be. Just like Wendy Richter, where Vince said, hey, motherfucker, you gonna give me my title. He said, look, he said, hey, Shawn and Hunter, please. We about to engage in some debauchery, all right? Don't tell nobody, but this title is ours. But once the bell rings, just take the title and don't say you knew anything. Hang up the phone. And then that's what happened. He had Brett in Brett's hold.
Shout out to Vince for being smart enough not to tell a nigga like Undertaker. Because
Undertaker was pissed.
We had got the title.
It was mad.
Undertaker, you talk about Wrestler's Court, like he was the real OG there. Like he wanted everything. You could tell when he said that, fam, it felt like his MO was, look, everybody got to be balanced. We just want to make sure that shit is copacetic and ain't no bullshit going on. Because he'd been a vet. At that point, he had been around in a couple territories for a minute. But yeah, they made sure they didn't tell Pat Patterson, they didn't tell nobody but Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and they held that shit for like 20, 25 years.
That's crazy.
Shit is trash, dog.
Nigga was back there talking about head to the man, baby. I ain't
had nothing to do with.
But look, we're talking about the guy that runs NXT and the guy that runs WWE. Like there are rewards for that type of debauchery.
This is what I'm saying. If the fly shit is, and it's not fly at all, is right. The guy stabbing another guy that did him a solid his whole life in the back.
Right.
asked you to hold this favor.
Right.
Asked 2 of these people to do this favor for me.
Right.
These same 2 people are now in charge and have put their foot square in your ass to get you up out of the spot.
Facts.
You see how the world works? It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Man, the most successful people in life, as good or bad as their actions have been, they usually have some sort of code. And I think the code that Vince lived by, as crazy as it were and could have been or was, it got him by. Like, it got the things that it got the work done.
Yes.
Until it got him.
Well,
that was him playing outside the code. I don't think Dudu.
Yeah, well, again, just like fucking, you know where we stand. Said the one time I messed up is when I didn't listen to Vince. Vince understand how to play the game. Vince, like your cousin said, when Vince start playing outside the lines is when trouble start brewing. Whether it's Sergeant Slaughter, WrestleMania 7. You know what I mean? There's a number of situations where he thought he was doing more than he could actually do. Whether it's, again, I wrote, this is not sponsored, but whether it's No Holds Barred, where he went in thinking he gonna be, we can just make a movie. I got Hulk Hogan, we just make a movie, and then the movie don't really make no money. And now we're in a situation where when people were calling a WWE segment cinema, and I'm not just talking about, this storyline is dope, it could be a movie. This 9-minute segment here is a movie, and all they're doing is talking to each other about a match in 2 weeks. Like the real, once they forget that it's a pro wrestling show and all these dope ideas would be dope to incorporate in the pro wrestling show, is when a lot of it feels like that's when a lot of the fuckery starts going down. But
do you remember we've all seen what's the Barry Blaustein flick with the behind the scenes
Beyond the Mat,
right? There's a scene toward the beginning of the movie. He's like, "Nah, I don't do wrestling, baby. I make movies.
We making movies."
That's what he said. Like, the nigga told you, come on. He told you.
We making movies.
You. Yeah.
That was the MO. But again, it's really when the WWE is saying, look, we're making a wrestling show and you're not going to know what's happening, but at the end of the day, you're going to be hype as fuck for this 1, 2, 3 or whatever the ending's going to be. That's when they shine. Throwing Rey Mysterio off a building and people are like, what the fuck's going on?
That shit was fire.
Captivating.
That shit was fire. I'm like, yo, he did.
It was a different time though. Back then, they were still trying to figure. Was this the episode? I would always hear about Bischoff giving away the results for the taped Raws on the show, going to the archival footage and man being like, "Hey, you want to change the dial? Don't worry, Shawn Michaels beats the big guy with a super kick. Stay tuned to Nitro or whatever." Like it's a real petty shit. But he was 83 weeks.
Petty.
He was very petty. But he said my job was to antagonize that motherfucker.
And he was successful at it.
I got to make Ayo feel away. I will say too. We were talking about it earlier. I did think it was funny that at this point in the game, both Shawn and Triple H, they're so quick to admit. Like Shawn was like, "Yeah, I was a prick."
Yeah,
I was
they old.
I was a prick. What a lot of that's Jesus though, right?
But they're also they're old, right? But they're also in leadership positions. So
they have to present a way.
They have people coming up to them all the time, like, "Yo, what happened with that?" Right? And they have to be
prepared,
transparent.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I was on some other. Now I don't know why I came down to the ring with biker shorts on and gauze in my back.
And the gauze in my shorts is crazy.
It was gauze. Like,
he had to let you
go what?
He's still a jerk. He's still a jerk. I don't know.
What?
He said, "No, bro. I want no sock. That shit was. I grabbed the
love
trainer
the real
gauze.
time correction.
Yes, yeah, that stuff is dope. When the cloud is lifted and he's remembering 1997 clear as fuck. Yeah.
No coke.
There's nothing running my nose.
Yeah.
Straight.
We'll get. I guess we'll get into it. 'Cause ending this episode and thinking about Brett doing the WCW in the air, and he's like, "Yo, Owen was the guy right there who was like, hey, he was trying to comfort me and whatnot." Because shit was bad for Owen.
Mm-hmm.
Shit get like he was the last one, right? Like everybody had left. He was the last one that was there.
That's why they called him the Nugget.
Fucking awful. Nah, but at the end of the day, if you've learned nothing, you should know that Vince McMahon is going to do anything to make sure that his property is returned to him.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that means you losing when you shouldn't be losing to your move. Episode 4 of Mr. McMahon, our no cap recap of that should be coming soon.
Yes, sir.
We kind of just drop. We just started dropping these. Hopefully you've been watching. Again, if you've not watched any of this before you start watching any of us, you playing yourself.
Yeah, you're a dummy.
You would dummy
I
for real.
I might need the what was the from Monique and Precious together? You a dummy, bitch.
You a dummy, bitch. Shouts out to Prim. Prim made that into a clip.
Oh.
I don't have a dummy, bitch. I just got. Anyway.
You a dummy, bitch.
You a dummy, bitch. All right, y'all. We out. Peace from the OG3. We'll catch y'all next time. Black Rasslin's out. Peace.